Our first guest is the Assemblyman. He's Assembly Member for the New York's 83rd District and the Assembly Speaker. He joins us to discuss what's happening in his district and the state. We welcome Carl Heastie. Welcome, Assemblyman.
Hey, Bob. Thank you for having me on the show. I hope all is well and your family is staying safe and everything is going well in your circle.
And I see that you're right there side by side with a beautiful young lady.
Mm-hmm. That's my Princess Taylor. She's 11.
There you go. She's gorgeous. But listen, thanks for coming on. And I know we have a lot that we've been talking about. There's been calls for changes to the law enforcement and community relations many times before. But what was different this time that New York was able to pass these bills that we're going to be talking about?
I think there were a few factors in why it happened now and maybe not years ago. I think the makeup of the legislature, the fact that there's 2 Democratic houses, although I will say there was bipartisan support on a lot of the bills that we did pass. But I also think the moment that we're in had a lot to do with it. I think, seeing what happened to George Floyd, I think touched the hearts and I just think the minds and spirits of people all around the world who said that, time has to change. And I think that helped give fuel and momentum to having these bills to be passed. Yeah.
And then we have something called the 50A. Explain that. What is that all about?
Well, in the 1970s, a civil law was passed that allowed disciplinary records for certain classes of employees not to be subject to FOIL. And that's the Freedom of Information Law. And police was one of those groups. And so 50A repeals that law, which now makes disciplinary records for those classes of employees. And as I said, police was one of them: police, fire, corrections, and I believe probation or parole.
And this is one of the laws that garnered the most attention, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because I think that people, want to know what has been the interaction that police officers have had with the public, and I think that was really the impetus of why 50A was passed. That people just wanted to know, how many complaints did you have when you've done, public interactions. And so I think that was one of the big reasons why 50A was passed.
Yeah, and there's been a repeal of 50A?
Yeah, we call it the repeal because the law that was passed I don't know, it might be 1976, 1974, I don't know off the top of my head. It was the 50A law gave that exclusion in the civil law. And so that's why what we passed, we repealed that exclusion that was passed in the 70s.
Yeah, and there's also a law that has been passed, several other bills that have been passed that will change the way that police interact with people of color, particularly young people of color. What does that mean to you?
Well, the STAT Act, which is, the statistics need to be kept and made public on how police interact with people on, I'd say, like nuisance and violations and things that don't reach the level of misdemeanors, because one of the complaints was that communities of color are always over-policed. So the STAT Act would shed some light on those type of interactions between the police and particularly communities of color.
Yeah, and with the rise of gun violence, everybody's talking about it. They said people are shooting all over the place. Many are saying that this is a result of the recent criminal justice reform. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say this: the New York Post, which has not been a friend to criminal justice reform, actually did an article and said that, in fact, that the NYPD's own statistics show that there's no real correlation with the bail reform and this spike in shootings. These shootings have happened all across the country. I think we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's pressures on people. There's rivalry beefs that are happening. There's record unemployment,
Yeah.
all of it, which is inexcusable. And me personally, is we're in a time where we're looking at systemic racism. It breaks my heart that we have all of these black on black or black or brown on black or black on brown or brown on brown shootings are occurring in our communities, while we're trying to ask people, to end systemic racism. We are, engaging in killing each other. So it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And, in the Bronx, it has been hit especially hard by COVID-19. What are some of the things that are happening out there? Some of the things that your team are putting together in the Bronx and up in Albany?
I think when when the state of New York, particularly New York City and even the tri-state area, was hit hard, one of the things we knew we had to strike in is, well, you have to get people tested. So a lot of testing sites were set up. There's one in Co-op City, which is right outside of my assembly district. It's a drive-in. We did mobile sites. Different churches volunteered. They put their hands up and said, you can have our church to do testing for the virus or the antibody testing, and we wanted to make sure that people were fed and were safe. So we funded food pantries. My office is making calls every day into the community to check on people to see if they need anything. I think one of the things that we need to realize in this pandemic is, the quarantine has kind of sheltered people and shuttered people, and we have to take that time to check on people, particularly those in our community who may be a little older. They can't get around. So I always say that, check on your neighbor. If Miss Smith across the street, is an elderly person, make sure she's okay. And maybe when you go shopping, you just say, hey, Miss Smith, do you need anything when I'm from the store? I think we have to look at this pandemic as us taking care of each other. And then the other thing that we've been doing, and we're in the middle of now, and I'd say probably by this weekend, I'll probably be about 85% done in doing in different locations throughout my assembly district. We've been giving free mask and hand sanitizer giveaways because even though the pandemic, we flattened the curve, we have to keep the curve flat. And, I ride around with masks in the car. If I ride by and I see a group of people in my district, people at summertime, they're having barbecues, I will give them, a box of masks.
And remind them.
As a reminder, we can't take it for granted. This is not like the flu where it kind of goes away when it gets warm. This is a very highly contagious disease, and we should not underestimate it and think because of the warm weather that everything is back to normal.
We should put that in that go bag that you were talking about years ago. I think that was during Hurricane Sandy, right?
Exactly.
Make that a part of your go bag. Now, in 2018, there was a big project that you were working on, the YMCA building in your district. It was announced that you were going to put all that together. And do you have any updates on that?
Well, Bob, in this community in the Northeast Bronx, we never had a real community center been talked about. I often called it the unicorn, something that we knew existed, but we just never saw it. Right. And so in 2018, they began construction of a $60 million YMCA in the Northeast Bronx, near Edenwall, near the Edenwall and Baychester houses in the Bronx around Cardinal Spellman. And during COVID, we had to shut down construction, or they had to shut down construction in the middle of March. But about a week and a half ago, they started up. And so it was supposed to be completed by the end of this year. We were hoping to have the grand opening, but it looks like now it'll probably be mid-spring next year. But we will finally have a community center up here in the Northeast Bronx. And that's like, to me, my legacy items, something that, hopefully will be here for generations, even after I'm out of politics, and when God takes me from this place, it's just something that I wanted to give back to a community that's given so much to me.
Well, we need you around for a long time, and so does Tyler. You know, she's looking up to you to guide her in the right direction. I understand that she's doing a fantastic job in school, and she has a path. She has the right path. She's following in Dad's footsteps. But you said, no, wait a minute. She may want to become something else, like a doctor or something.
She wants to be a doctor. She likes going around, because I think when she was, younger, everybody treated her like a little princess. Being speaker, she'd have the walk of the chamber, the Capitol, and everybody, paid attention to her and babied up. But now that she's grown out of that, she doesn't want to go with Daddy to as many political events anymore. But she wants to be a doctor, and you know what? God bless her for that, because she can have, a great impact on, I'm just thankful she wants to do something, that's community minded, that can help people. And I hope that's the one thing that she learned from me, is that to just do a job. Anybody can do a job to make money, but do a job that's going to help people.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are proud of one another. She's proud of you always. You have lots of major accomplishments since becoming Speaker in 2015. Talk about it.
Well, we raised the minimum wage, all of the criminal justice and police reforms, which, again, I'd say on a grander scale, reforming the criminal justice system and how people of color have been treated in this system, I always said was probably the most important thing I thought with me being elected Speaker and being the first Speaker, Black and African American, Caribbean American, to hold that position. I felt that it was important for me to change that course, and so I'd say that's probably the biggest item that was on the agenda. But we've done a lot of good things: paid family leave, making it easier for people to vote. All of these things, I think were important for us to do. To have more people engaged, and just, like I said, for elected officials, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to solve all of the ills of society, but I do think it's our job to just make things better than when we took office, and that's kind of the mantra that I've tried to live up to. Just try to make things better. Sounds good. Any last words going out to our parents, trying to get the youngsters back in school, or people who are out there gunslinging or shooting, or any last words toward people who maybe want to relax as far as not putting on their PPEs or masks out there and social distancing? I'll say on the first thing on the schools, we're still trying to work through this, the reopening of schools and how parents will handle this rotation if kids are going to be in school, a couple of days. I think there's still some things that have to be worked out. I'll be having conversations with the chancellor and the mayor and the state board of regents on it, because we have to look at how these things are being done statewide. So I still think there's some kinks that have to be worked out on those plans. I would say to the people, again, we can't complain about how the system has, treated us as people of color, and then we go out and harm one another. And we just, we have to love each other, we have to support each other, and we have to take care of each other. And then finally, I would say, again, I'll repeat it, I know the weather is nice, the sun is out, the sky is beautiful, but COVID is real. And I think that we can't take it for granted. And that, even if you think you're superhuman and you can beat it, you can catch it and then give it to somebody who may not be superhuman. So if you think that maybe you don't have to worry about yourself, and don't wear the mask for yourself. Wear it for somebody that you care about. But it is important for us to continue to wash our hands, use hand sanitizer, and wear our mask when we're going to be in public around other people. Absolutely. All right, the Assembly Speaker, Carl Heastie. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. Lovely daughter Taylor there. That's a great shot right there. Take a picture of that, Helen. There you go. Lead the way. Whoa, look at that. So, hey, thank you, man. But thank you as always for having me. Thank you for always, not just always giving us great entertainment, but you've always been a great community-minded person. We've done so many civic events together, you know, since I was elected, you know, 20 years ago. So, you know, I want to take my invisible hat off to you for not just being a great radio personality, but also being a great community person as well.
We love you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Assembly
Take
Speaker
care.
Carl Heastie. We'll take a break. I've got more open coming up next.